Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Very good. Very good.
Hi guys.
Hello.
Avi, how's it going, Avi?
It is going really good. Thank you for asking.
I really appreciate you taking the time to join this. It's 9:30 your time. So you are a good kid. You're joining this podcast. I really appreciate you taking the time.
I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Very nice. Very nice. I love your enthusiasm.
And I also just want to say thank you to Nehal and Annika for doing this and allowing Rishi to come on and do this campaign, this podcast. But I would also like to thank you, Rishi, for allowing fellows like myself to get these type of opportunities.
Avi, you are a very admirable student. You are a fellow and you're doing some phenomenal work, and we can see your trajectory. That will be something that I will watch out for, and I'll be there one day to get your autograph. You are an amazing person. Thank you.
Thank you.
I agree. I mean, you've done a really good job.
Thank you. So yeah, I'll be here in the background. If you guys need anything, have any trouble, I'll be here, but mostly I'll just be on mute and I'll be watching.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right, awesome. So we're recording this now, right? So is this going to be audio or do we need you on video now, Rishi?
Yes. We are actually going to capture this Zoom video session.
Okay.
And then we'll send you the video.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Will that be okay?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. I just wanted to check. Your camera is not on or something, so I just wanted to make sure we were doing video.
Yes. As soon as we start live streaming. Neha and Anika.
It's Nehal. It's Nehal.
Nehal. Okay, yeah. Got it. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's fine. We get all sorts of different versions of our names, both of them, a lot, so it's fine.
Nehal.
Oh, and Anika, yeah.
And will you have like a live audience joining in, or it'll be broadcast later?
We'll actually be broadcasting it. I think they're going to be recording it, and then they're going to release it on your channels first, and then eventually on ours as well as an Instagram like episode rather than a live.
Got it. Okay, super. Yeah. Okay, and it's going. Let me just put a little description to pull some verbiage about. Here we go. Okay, we are going to go live. And let's see. Okay.
Awesome. So we're all set.
Yes.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Rishi, and for Avi, who is not on camera right now, but for anyone who is going to tune in, anyone who's out there, Avi deserves some serious props for hooking us up with this interview in the first place, and for being our point person in getting me and Nehal to be able to speak with Rishi. So I'm Anika, and this is Nehal, my co-host, and we're both the hosts of a podcast called The Woke Desi. And we're here today to talk to Rishi Kumar, who is a candidate for the 18th Congressional District in California. So Rishi, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us tonight.
Great to join you. Thank you for the opportunity. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, same. So tell us your story. How did you end up here?
It's the most improbable story that we can think of. I've always been a high-tech geek. I came in with dreams of going to grad school, mechanical engineering at the University of Connecticut. And that's where my immigrant story begins. And I realized that I used to love the American rock and roll and the quality of life that seemingly this country offers in comparison to where I moved from. I moved from Bombay, India, and but I truly enjoyed everything about America. I was living that dream for many years, even before I got here. So I was very excited, and I found myself working in Silicon Valley eventually, making a move from Connecticut to Michigan to Silicon Valley. And this is where my activism came to fore. And I'm not really sure how and why, but, I realized that I was enjoying solving problems and addressing little issues here and there. And people started approaching me to solve some of these bigger challenges. And I would look around like, who are they trying to reach? Oh, it's me. Why me? And I ended up running for city council, and here we are running for United States Congress. I've worked for IBMs and Cisco's of the world, and we have a very unique insight of problem solving, and which is my calling here and the reason why we're running for Congress, because there are some big challenges that we need to solve in the United States. And that's my aspiration. I call it people-centric behavior. We have pledged to not accept any PAC money, special interest group money. We are squarely there for the people. And we'll take some of these skills, coding skills, to the United States Congress. I don't think so. We have a congressional leader who can write lines of code, but that's my background. That's what I pride myself on. And we will see how we can take some of the secret innovation sauce that we have here that works so very well to empower Silicon Valley, where we are the 19th largest economy in the world, and how we can see different parts of the country and create an innovation economy for these other states as well, and see how we can make America better. That's my story.
How did you get into politics, actually? How does one become successful in a field like that? I know you mentioned it briefly right now, but your passion for politics, where did that start?
I truly, Nehal, I don't think so. I had a passion for politics, and true story, like, when I started doing stuff in the community, my wife would be like, what are you doing? Go back to your IBM job and stay busy with that. And I remember that moment I applied for the planning commission, and she was like watching me do all these different, things that she never quite expected. And she literally told me that you'll make a fool out of yourself on the planning commission. What are you doing? But, and I still have no idea. I'll tell you, Nehal, I go back to two specific points, right? There's always a story around this, and this is what really defines who I am. I still remember moving into this city of Saratoga from Michigan, and my neighbors didn't know each other. So I said, okay, coming from Bombay, I'm very social. I like being around people. I like connecting with people. I like having conversations with people, right? So I said, we need to connect our neighbors. So what I did was, I wanted to launch an email group. Back in those days, probably way before your time, we had something called Yahoo Groups. I don't know if you guys even know Yahoo Group.
I'm old enough to remember. Nehal, I'm not so sure. Okay, I'm old enough to remember.
So, I printed out the flyer and I called it our neighborhood Yahoo Group. And then I went around distributing flyers. The very first person who opened the door, he looks at me and is like, I've lived here for 30 years. I don't know who you are. Please, we don't need such stuff around here, And I think my public service career would have stopped right there. Right there, it would have stopped. But, there is a little bit of a fearless streak in me. And when I get challenged like that, I really want to step up and get beyond that. And in fact, I talk about this story a lot. We have a very vibrant fellowship program. We have hundreds of fellows from all parts of the United States, actually from 28 states that have joined this program. And we are solving the big challenges of Silicon Valley and America. And I always tell this story to our interns. And, I literally stood outside that door about 5-10 minutes, and the noise in my head was playing out. Do I really need to knock on this door? Do I really need to do this? And I got over my fears and I did that. And then next story is, we fast forward. It's like a movie. We fast forward, and we used to run this. I'm big into Bollywood. My wife and I, we do the Bollywood song and dance. And if you, she's asked me to shut them out on YouTube, but maybe there are a couple of them floating around, and we make a fool out of ourselves. But I said we used to run this event at our home, the wine and cheese party, and where people would show up and we would sing and perform and all that kind of stuff. And I figured out that Saratoga is a very small city, about 30,000 population. And our businesses, we have a very small, very quaint downtown that nobody ever visits. And, there was a need for help where citizens of our city, neighbors would never, ever visit our downtown. So I said, let's do something fun. So we called it the Saratoga Village Karaoke. And the idea was to bring the whole community together and have a little fun. And that was really the launch of my political career, and I don't kid you, because if I hadn't done these two things, I would not be running for Congress here.
I'm actually from the Bay Area also, so I'm not sure if you knew this, but I'm from San Francisco originally. My family's from Dublin, so I've seen a rise in a lot of South Asians in our community, and I know Saratoga has quite a lot of South Asian people as well. So I'm curious of how your experience as a South Asian has played a role in politics and how those kind of tie in with your policies that you're looking forward to.
Yes, so great question. And, essentially, I have the identity as a Southeast Asian, that's who I am. And my roots are grounded in the cultures and traditions of India, but they have morphed over time to an American culture. I really loved this country before I got here. And that's why I did shift my ideologies, adopted and integrated myself with the best of, processes that we have in this country in terms of, how we define life and how we run through life. And truly speaking, this is what makes someone like me, when you look at all the different cultures we have, as an Indian American here, and the strong social values we have, it's basically a strong family values that we have, that defines who I am. But also when you look at as a high-tech geek in Silicon Valley, where all the geeks are rock stars, it has defined my agenda in Congress in terms of getting things done. We have big problems. This is what I did as a council member in the city of Saratoga that got me the most votes in the 60 years election history of Saratoga, with a population base of 10% Indian Americans. I really don't have a base, but this is what defines who I am, that innovation strategy with respect to the public sector. And then obviously the cultures and traditions that we have in terms of the stories that we hear, growing up, that I used to read, and that really has sparked a zeal in me to be good, essentially. And that's really what I would summarize. If I look at all these different components of who I am, from different set of experiences, beliefs, and education, it has really defined me to be like someone who has great intentions for the world. And I don't mean to brag, but some of my friends look at me and they never ever thought, like I was just talking to a IBM colleague of mine as we were looking to raise our campaign funds for this particular quarter. And he was like, Rishi, I would never ever have thought that working for IBM, you would be out here running for Congress. What happened? And I basically told him very simple that, look, my zeal in this is to solve the big problems, help people out. And why? Because it makes me very happy as a person. And I'm also building good karma out, and that's my agenda. And, obviously we have to never, ever forget who we are, the roots that we come from. And because that is really what grounds us into the current world. And it's a good story playing out. I'm very, very happy that someone like me, an immigrant to this country, has been given this opportunity to serve, which I would never have thought. I think if I was in India, I would probably never, ever run for member of parliament. But it's only this magnificent country, this awesome country, that is providing someone like me an opportunity to be running for Congress here. We are very excited about that.
One of my favorite lines from Hamilton is actually that immigrants get the job done. And it's like one of the best lines, because everybody in New York, and I've seen it in London, so everybody in London loses their mind every single time they hear that line, because it's such a true statement and such a true testament to the people that have come here and who get to build the country then afterward for generations that come after. One of the things that I know when I spoke to you the other day that really stood out was your journey from, like you said, being an immigrant to IBM to eventually being a delegate, and how that was sort of your first step into politics and your first foray into it. So, could you tell us a little bit about that journey and what that has been like as a first step in all of this, and how that might actually be a really great thing for people to try and aspire to if they're wondering where they should even start with politics if they do want to make that kind of change and the kinds of changes that you've been fighting for?
Yeah, great question. Essentially, when I look at this journey with the Blue Rock Shoot, the open mics, or even the neighborhood leader launching block parties in my neighborhood, or launching a neighborhood watch program, it was all an agenda of solving problems and making it better. And so, many a times, our community, Southeast Asian community, we might be sort of busy with families and education or whatever else, or sometimes we are doing fun stuff too. And we may not feel the urge to go out and engage and solve little problems that we see, or perhaps may not feel the urge to volunteer in the schools. But I think this is really what makes this country special, because I call it, like in my city of Saratoga, that there is a special kind of water that we all drink where we all want to give back. Everybody volunteers in the schools. And even if I came with the mindset that volunteering is not for me, but I realized quickly the value of that and I jumped in. So I think we have to take the time to get involved. And I say this, that when we see something wrong, please don't look away. And this is really what I've done. And that comes from that sense of fearlessness that I have, that what can go wrong, because this country is amazing. And it's a system that has worked very, very well for centuries in terms of empowering immigrants like me. So it has provided me that framework of going out and challenging the system sometimes and making things better, because America is built on the framework of innovation and immigrants just like me. So this is what we seek to do. And this is what I would like to advise anybody who's listening to this, that, you never know what the journey would uncover for you if you start giving to the world. I always say this, that it's more fun to give than to take. And this is what I realized, that when I started giving to the world, the doors that opened up was tremendous. For example, my ability to succeed in the world of corporate America became so much more easier because I actually enhanced my communication skills. So when we were running the open mic at the Blue Rock Shoot, which I was talking about, the very first time I was standing there trying to run that event, I'm looking for my PowerPoint deck. Where's my PowerPoint deck, right? Because, this is how I present. I need the crutch of a PowerPoint deck, but I was forced to sort of stand there and figure out, what I needed to speak. And this is what goes on, when you try to do something. And why did we do that? We were trying to help the businesses of our city. So when you give, you get, something back in return. And that is invaluable. That is invaluable because the kind of skills and learning that happens, we will keep with us forever and ever. And so this is what I would like to suggest, right? So when you look at empowering the youth, that is definitely part of my charter. We started running like Lego Robotics boot camp, entrepreneurship boot camps, things like that. And we would bring the whole community together. And one of the state senators heard about that. And the state senator reached out and he basically said, Rishi, why don't we get you involved? Are you a Democrat? I said, yes, I am registered as a Democrat. And he said, Rishi, why don't we get you involved with the California Democratic Party? And why don't you run as a delegate? And I was like, really? I don't even know what a delegate is, and I'm being very, very, very candid here, right? I have no idea what this is, but, I have the zeal to experiment and give it a try with many of these different things, just like we ran the open mic. So I said, okay, fine, let's do it. And we ended up running. There were 43 people running in that January of 2013, 43 people running. And guess what happened? Something very magical happened. There were stalwarts from the Valley who were running, established political players, council members of cities and so many amazing people. But from these 43, I ended up getting the #1 spot. And I couldn't believe my ears. What happened was people from the local area who had been joining all the different events and activities that we were running, these are free programs we run, they all showed up. They said, Rishi has been giving to us. He's been helping the world. we need to help him out because this is the first time we hear he's running for some office. We don't even know what that is, but we'll show up to help. And this is really my foray, because 2013 January, we ran for office. I'm still the executive board member of the California Democratic Party. And 2014, we ran for city council. 2018, we ran again, and here we are running for Congress. So it was quick, rapid steps. But I'll tell you what, whenever that, if you look at me, November of 2012, if you had told me that Rishi, you'll be running for a delegate, I would have told you, what are you talking about? And then if you had told me in November 3rd, 2020, actually November 6th, 2018, when we had the election, the re-election, election night party, the Tuesday of November, and you had told me that you'll be running for Congress next year, I'd be like, no, what are you smoking, right? But here, we announced a run right after, and doors have opened up, and which I never ever thought. And that's why I keep calling it the most improbable run. But I can guarantee you one thing, Anika and Nehal, that we're going to win this race. We're going to win this race, and we'll take this geekiness, the Eastern wisdom to Congress, and we'll do some amazing things. We'll test the system. We'll test the establishment politics. We'll be fearless, and we'll make change happen in an awesome way.
I love that so much. I think that's, I know Annika was going to say the same thing. Like that is the power we need. But a lot of things that we've talked about also is making change within the South Asian community. We are a giant community more than ever this year. I think South Asians need to vote. In the past, we've actually talked about it where South Asians don't vote because access to ballots are, scarce, or there's other things that come into mind where people just don't feel like they know enough knowledge or things like that. So especially for you, when it comes to what issues South Asians think are most important, what might those issues be? And what do we need to know about what you're doing and what things you're supporting?
Yeah, so I think that's the biggest challenge we have. Okay, so let me give you numbers, right? Like I'm a geeky engineer. I'll always go back.
Yeah, let us have it. Yeah, let us have it.
10% of Indian Americans in Saratoga, 10% of the population are Indian Americans in Saratoga, right? So the total number of registered voters is about 1,600. And high propensity voters, these are folks who have voted in 3 out of the 5 elections. Because when we go door to door, when we are analyzing the district, we look at who are the high propensity voters and we target them. And you know what happens? We only have 145 high propensity voters in the city of Saratoga from the Indian American community. And when I'm out there in different forums, like different celebrations, I always give this number, which is very staggering because I want people to think. And the reason why I want people to think is because if you are not getting out there and exercising your vote, you are going to be compromised as a community. And I refer to the kulak farmers of Russia. They owned 80% of the farmland in Russia. Stalin came in, and the kulaks, he basically turned the private farmlands into state-owned. And so the kulak farmers, which was probably the richest population in Russia, had to flee the country. They were put in concentration camps, or they were killed. Mm-hmm. And this is the reason why we need to ensure that we are plugged in with what's happening around us. We need to vote, because if we don't vote, our voice is not going to be heard. When there are people campaigning in my neighborhood, if I did not vote, they would not ever knock on my door. And as a community, we'll be severely undermined because they don't care about our values. And in fact, to some extent, this is what is going on today, because we are all in the world of Instagram and social media and TikTok, and everybody is trying to portray that side of their life. So our Indian American population, they will show up to political events, they take pictures, they might make a campaign contribution, and they will flash that on social media. But guess what? They're not voting. And that is going to undermine us as a population.
Stickers, all of the things that people do when they go to the voting place and they're actually not doing anything. They're just trying to show for the sake of showing, like, hey, look at me, I voted sticker. But yeah, I definitely think that's a problem.
Exactly. And there are big issues for us, right? There's an issue playing out right now in California, which is called ACA 5, which seeks to bring affirmative action back. And so our education system with the 9 UCs that we have could be a quota based upon the population demographics of California. And it is affecting the Indian population, the Indian American population here, and it's invoking action. So finally they're saying like, oh my God, I need to exercise my voice. But in 2014, this whole thing was playing out. And I was there in Cupertino, which is next town over to Saratoga. And I showed up at the Cupertino City Hall. And there were lots of Chinese American families there. You know, they were expressing, and they look at me and they're like, Rishi, where is the rest of your Indian Americans? You know, why aren't they here? Why aren't they speaking up? And I believe in the last few years, it has shifted a little bit. After 6 years, we have a lot more Indian Americans who are plugged in with this particular issue. But if we don't, you know, it's the very future of our students, of our children. And in fact, the very future of our community could be at stake. And it's very, very important for us to take the time to engage, to get involved and exercise our voice, but more importantly, to fire up the activism inside us and get involved.
And how can we do that? What are some ways that people can volunteer? I know we did an episode with Leah Thatchell on the Woke Desi, and she was saying that one of the best ways to get involved is seeing or going neighborhood hunting and like seeing how you can either do postcard writing or you can go door to door and knock and talk to people. What are some other ways that people and your volunteers have helped you?
Yes. You know, what we have done is we have always launched an internship program, summer internship program. And this is the 6th year of our summer internship program and the 2nd year in our congressional run. And we have always empowered youth. I mean, they are doing social media, they are doing data analytics, they are doing communication. In fact, we are looking for a communications director who's typically got some industry experience because we just lost one and we are actively trying to recruit somebody. But we have, you know, industry stalwarts who mentor these students. I mean, our directors are from like Marvell Technology or from Cisco's of the world or VMware. You know, I mean, they are industry leaders, but they have leadership experience, and this is what we are doing. And you know, it's a great win-win because when I look at the ideas, the creativity, the energy that they have, for me, this is the most exciting time during the summer where I'm learning constantly from them. But how do we get started? You know, my take is very simple. You know, for if anyone is looking to get started, and I'll tell you why you need to get started. Because if you know, we work in a little black box. You know, we have a little black box, our comfort zone. And if you want to get outside of that comfort zone, you know, sometimes you might be a lawyer or an engineer or a doctor. You know, you are sort of very stilted, you know, in terms of, you know, how you're going to operate in your day job. But you need to expand and flex a little bit. And this is where, if you get involved in the community, you can experiment a little bit. And this is exactly what I did. You know, I experimented and I discovered a new side of myself that I never knew existed. Like even my wife is surprised with the dramatic transformation that has happened over so many years now, you know, because there is a new side of me that has emerged. And these traits will stay there forever. So do it for your own self. There is tremendous benefit in engaging. And how do you do that? Very simple. When you see something that you feel is important for you, you know, take the time to get involved with this. You know, it's very simple. And you essentially, it is not too much work. You know, it's not too much work because the amount of give back for you personally will be tremendous. If you give to the world, a lot of it will come back in so many different ways that you cannot even tell, right? So let's go back to my wife. You know, so when I started this journey, she was trying to pull me back. And you know what happened in 2014 when I was running my campaign, the very first, I had run 3 different election campaigns before I ran my own campaign, which is like, you know, I'm a glutton for punishment, looks like. But, you know, I was trying to help people. They were good candidates. I said, let's figure out what I can do. This essentially provided the framework for my own political run in 2014. But I'll tell you one thing, you know, Anika and Nehal, if my wife Seema had not jumped in and had campaigned, I would never have won that election. Because she started believing in this purpose, she was like, yeah, this is something bigger. It's going to impact us, our family in a positive way. And there is some value in us giving back to the world. And 2018, again, and right now she is part of this 2020 campaign as well, right? I mean, she works at Extreme Network. She's very busy, but she knows the importance of it, right? And this is what all of us will realize. All we need to do is take the first step. Like when I was fighting San Jose Water Company with super high water rates, I was told by some members of our community that, hey, you know, you don't have jurisdiction over San Jose Water Company. It's PUC that have it. And my approach in this is, let me take the first step. I have no idea what I'm going to do, but unless I take the first step, I will never know what happened. This is how we dropped burglaries by 47%, the largest drop in compared to any other Silicon Valley city. We are a very affluent community. The median price is probably $2.5 million. But even one burglary is one too much, and we dropped it by 50%. Now, when you look at burglaries or water rates, right? We're talking about water rates. We dropped water rates, 7 water rates that I never knew existed would ever happen in the history of a community, right? So this is what an activist can do, and that really defines the future of your own life. And it's going to be an amazing story. I guarantee you that. Give it a try.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it. I think, we tried to do that with our podcast recently, in the last year or so since we launched, and just trying to expand our own horizons. And it's definitely opened up professional avenues. It's opened up personal avenues. It's changed our growth patterns, and it's definitely opened up life in a whole different way. And I think standing for something is incredibly important because, there's always those quotes like, you have to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. And it's one of those things where, you find a cause and you believe in it and you have to go for it. And you don't always have to have a very distinct roadmap. As you said, sometimes there's moments where you're not exactly sure how to make certain changes, but you just know they have to be made. So you'll take that first step and you'll try and do something, and it ends up paying off, especially in your case with a lot, like you said, with the water companies and, with crime rates. So that's pretty impressive all around. We're hitting the mark right now for about a half hour. So I guess we'll ask for one more question. And that is basically, what do you want to say most, especially to the rising South Asians, the rising community that's going to be voting for you and making changes and hoping for change for their generations and their children? What is the final message that you'd like to send out?
You stole the words right out of my mouth, as usual, Annika. I was going to say, we are young, we are South Asian, we are social justice advocates, and so we want to know why we should vote for someone like you.
That's great. Thank you so much. And, firstly, Annika and Nehal, thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a pleasure. Your questions are very well thought out, and it's leading to a good conversation. And hopefully it'll benefit our South Asian, all the followers that you have and everybody who'll be watching this. Now, essentially, when you look at, my zeal to run for office, is it really pertaining to the Southeast Asian community? I'm there for everybody. When you look at the 2018 re-election run, there were seniors from my community who were emailing me that, oh, Rishi, I've never seen a council member like you in the last 50 years. Because my agenda is for everybody. I'm there for Chinese Americans. I would knock on doors during that 2018 campaign, and a gentleman would open the door and like, oh, Rishi, you're here. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, hold on. And he comes out with the phone and he's showing me the WeChat chat windows. And he's scrolling down. He's like, look, your name is here. Your name is here. Your name is here. And everything is in Mandarin. I'm like, what is it? Like, are they talking good things about me or not? He's like, no, it's all good. It's all good. We love you. And so that's the story that played out, right? When you are going to give yourself out there, when you have an agenda of solving problems, then I'll tell you what, we come from a culture, which is a very, very pacifist culture. When you look at Mahatma Gandhi and the non-violence, we are, hardworking, and we have a sense of some sort of an intellectual prowess in terms of, the Vedas, the Atharva Vedas, whatever, everything that we learned over growing up, it has sort of created something very, very, very interesting within us, which stands tall in terms of everything else we'll do. So we are a special brand of people, and we need to apply that to make this community better. And this is exactly what I pledged to do. Now, I stand for Medicare for all. I stand for Green New Deal. There are big traffic issues here, and we have created a very unique idea of 21 minutes, 21 counties. Go to rishikumar.com and search for 21 minutes. Out will pop a white paper. We talk about building out high-speed transportation, zero greenhouse gas, tunnel-based system to connect different parts of Silicon Valley so that we can alleviate the quality of life challenges with housing, transportation, homelessness, and build a better America. That's my agenda. And I would invite you to take a look at that. And my final thing would be for you, I would love to see many more Indian Americans run for political office. I think we are obviously a very, very affluent community, and there is no money in politics, unfortunately. But it's never about the money. It's always about, what we are going to do and contribute towards the world. And if I can do that and demonstrate that, my kids will hopefully adopt that. And together we can make it a much better place. So please give that a try for sure.
Thank you so much, Rishi, and listeners for obviously listening. We're going to have a lot of resources on the Woke Desi on Instagram. So follow the Woke Desi at the Woke Desi on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook.
Thank you
And
so much, Anika and Nehal. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for spending time with us. And, you know, as we've mentioned multiple times, guys, there's a podcast episode that we talk about civic engagement. Rishi has touched on all of those points once again. So we can't drive home enough the emphasis and the importance of our South Asian community coming out to vote for the candidates that we believe in and voting for change, because this election cycle in particular is extraordinarily important, not just for the presidential election, but with the local races that are happening. So if right now you are in the 18th congressional district in California, this is the race that you need to keep an eye on as well, because this is what impacts your community outside of national policy as well. And these are the people that you're putting in to represent you and to make these changes for you. So go on in and do your best and vote and vote, vote, vote. So
get involved, everyone. We're getting involved.
Get involved, take some responsibility, and vote. Thank you again, Rishi.
Thank you.
And, yeah, we'll have this up on our website as well.
Bye.
Right, bye. Thank you so much. Enjoy.
Thank you.